Hello and welcome to this video in which we will revisit the Iranian attack on Israel that took place on the night of April 13th to 14th, in which more than 300 missiles were fired, including more than 120 ballistic missiles, 30 cruise missiles and probably more than 150 improved Kamikaze drones, with only 9 missiles that managed to get through, which hit 2 bases, managing to damage only 1 Hercules C-130. So obviously this is a huge success for the Israeli air defense and anti-missile defense. And that's exactly what we'll examine. How did they manage to intercept all these missiles with such efficiency? First, it's important to understand that there are different types of vectors used by Iran. They have some absolutely colossal categories. They have a list of missiles that could fire over a distance as great as that between Iran and Israel, which is gigantic. We'll categorize them into multiple systems. First, what we call kamikaze drones are actually low-cost missiles propelled with propellers. The most famous is the Shahid, used by Russia against Ukraine. It flies at 111.85 miles h, is not stealthy, has no self-defense capabilities, and cannot detect decoys, at least in the first deployed generations. And so logically there is a very high interception rate against these systems. We know, for example, that Ukraine, it's between 80 and 90% of its missiles are intercepted, and when there is a dense air defense system, it's rather 100%. The second category is what we call cruise missiles. So there we will be subsonic. We will approach 800 to 559 miles per hour with trajectories that sometimes can be very low to avoid being detected by radars, or at least the radars that will be based on the ground. And there, once again, Iran has shown that they have a long category. They also provided them to their allies, their proxies, such as the Houthis, who managed to hit, including on the territory of Saudi Arabia, and attacks up to the United Arab Emirates. So we know that they have these missiles in large quantities. They also fired them. Until now, we thought these were systems that were relatively easy to intercept, since Israeli air defense has an excellent reputation. In fact, when we look again at Ukraine, the KH-101 missiles, which are technologically superior to Iranian missiles, they have very high interception rates simply by the defense systems that have been provided to Ukraine. However, Israel has better quality systems with even higher density. So the fact that all of the cruise missiles and all of the missiles, kamikaze drones, low-cost missiles, have been intercepted, there is absolutely no surprise. The real novelty is with the ballistic missiles. Ballistic missiles, the concept is a bit like Scud missiles or even German missiles from World War II. These are missiles whose trajectory is very, very predictable. That is, they will go up very, very high. They will exit the atmosphere. These are what we call exo-atmospheric missiles. However, they will go much faster, Mach 5, Mach 8, Mach 10, which obviously allows them to exit the atmosphere due to their speed, which gives them much greater ranges. The Shahab 4 missile is capable of reaching all of Europe. And so these missiles, as they go much faster, require interception systems that are much more complex and also much more expensive, because you need radars that can reach much further. You need interceptor missiles that can adapt, also go at higher speeds. So that was the real question. Israel has an air defense that is considered to be in 3 layers, but in reality there are more than that. The first, the most well-known, because you've seen it everywhere in the media for a long time, is the one we call Iron Dome. It's short-range defense, that is, less than 43.496 miles. It was put into service in 2011, and each interception will cost less than $100,000, which seems expensive, but in reality, compared to the cost of the destruction it could cause, it's not expensive, but generally it's very affordable compared to other air defense systems that exist all over the world. They have a proven efficiency rate that far exceeds 90%, and generally, the few percent that remain, it's also because this system has a calculator that allows it to see incoming rockets, for example, the rockets from Hamas. They have a system that allows them to see where it's going to fall. If it falls in a field or in the sea, they will let it pass. They will not waste a missile trying to intercept an enemy vector that presents absolutely no risk. The Israelis had also bought, in addition, they had tested a system called the Centurion, which had been developed by the United States. It's a derivative of the Phalanx, which is a terminal anti-air defense system found notably on ships, which creates a sort of metal wall by firing hundreds and hundreds of bullets in just a few seconds, which will constitute a real wall against which the missile or vector will come to crash. And so They bought this system, they tested it, but they considered that their Iron Dome and their missiles were so effective, so much more effective, that ultimately it was pointless to have a terminal low-layer defense that is only in the last 2 kilometers, whereas their goal is to intercept the missiles rather at their launch, 43.496 miles up to 43.496 miles, which allows them to also fall back into uninhabited areas or directly above the Gaza Strip when it is fired by the Gaza Strip. In addition, they have also been developing a system for years called the Iron Beam, which is an air defense laser, which I have already talked about on the channel for several years, because they are developing it and they are the most advanced in the world. At first, it was simply to be able to intercept drones, low-intensity drones, but over time, lasers have become so powerful that they have now acquired the ability to do CERAM, that is to say, exactly like a phalanx and like the Centurion that the Americans have, but the Israelis gave it up. That is, they can intercept rockets, artillery, and missiles. So this is really the terminal defense for kamikaze drones, cruise missiles, and the missiles that Israel has now intercepted have proven their ability to intercept with very high efficiency. We then have 2 long-distance layers. First, the first one, it's what we call David's Sling. The system, launched in 2017, is designed to intercept missiles. Again, I'm talking about missiles, but it could be fighter jets, helicopters, radar planes, for example, up to 186 miles away. It's so effective that it's going to replace the Patriot in Israeli air defense. And it obviously has the ability to intercept ballistic missiles, especially what we call tactical ballistic, because again, we have to make 2 categories of ballistic missiles. They can either be intercontinental missiles that are capable of going from Russia to the United States, for example, with many systems, the Topol, etc. And there are local systems that have, for example, a range of 186 miles, like the Toshka-U, or its derivatives, the Scud missiles, up to 310.689 miles range. And so that's David's Sling that will intercept them, especially when we had missiles, the Barda missiles that are used more by Iran's proxies in the region. And then we have the one that was really in question. It was the Arrow system. Here we are dealing with long distance, and this is to intercept heavy ballistic missiles. There are 2 Arrow systems. The Arrow 2, released in 2009, was developed by Israel, the US, and with funding from India for a period. It was used operationally for the first time in October 2023, when it was able to intercept a tool missile, and it intercepted it much higher because it does not intercept it on the descending phase, as we might have, for example, on David's front. It goes into space to intercept the incoming ballistic missile, and that's why this event in October 2023, which went relatively unnoticed, but it was the first space combat in history, because we have an attacking system that was intercepted in space by the Harrow 2 system, so in space. And the third system, it's called Harrow 3, so it's more recent. It was put into service in 2017, and that's where there's really something exceptional. It's that it was able to intercept Iranian missiles in their ascending phase, that is to say, detect, capture, intercept them even before they managed to reach their apogee. So that's really the big success, because it means that they intercepted the missiles when they were probably still above Iran or even above Syria. It doesn't even fall back on Israeli territory. So once again, very high efficiency with the help, however it must be known, of allies who were in the region for several reasons. First, because Iran announced 2 days before its attack, that is to say probably on April 11th, they announced to the Arab countries of the region that they were going to launch, this is an attack against Israel, with the aim that these countries do not feel attacked by Iran and do not retaliate by attacking Iran on their side. Except that the Arab countries betrayed Iran and provided the information to Israel, which obviously allowed for a notice that was interesting for Israel, but also for its allies. The US, France, UK, and other countries with ships and ground bases in the region could participate in intercepting these ballistic missiles using weapons like Patriot Advanced Capability -3 missiles. And then it must be understood that when we have such a notice, since they also have very important radars in Israel, very effective radars, we will, for example, think of the M2080 Green Pine radar, which goes with the Arrow 3, which has an operational range of more than 559 miles. So they are going to see the systems arrive with a lot of notice. But in addition, Israel has radar planes that we call Airborne Warning and Control System, But airborne warning and control system in reality is the generic term because Israel has an onboard radar called the ELW 2090, which is considered, when it became operational at the end of the 2000s, as the most effective in the world, especially against ballistic systems, because it has the ability to detect them from over 3,168 miles away. So you can imagine the onboard power. Other countries have also expressed interest in it. China once wanted to buy it, but India ultimately acquired the system. We often talk about India as if they have Beriev A-50 or Ilyushin A-50 radar aircraft systems. The radar plane is actually an Ilyushin 76 with Israeli radar on board. Contrary to what we often see on the internet, it's not a Russian technology they recently bought. It's the Russian plane Ilyushin 76, because India already had Ilyushin 76 for many other missions. And they put an Israeli technology on board that costs much more than a simple plane, because it's a simple airliner as they bought it in Russia. And so these airborne radars of absolutely incredible power were also able to see the missiles coming. And so the missiles and the Kamikaze drones, and when you even have 621 miles of operational range of your radar, and you have Kamikaze drones coming at 111.85 miles per hour, it gives you 4 to 5 hours of notice to be able to intercept them. And so Israel launched its F-15s with RR anti-aircraft missiles, and they were able to destroy a good part of these low-intensity missiles even before they approached and faced Iron Men, for example. So you really have to see the different layers as a whole. We have the terrestrial layers that have proven their effectiveness 1,000 times of Iron Men. We have the intermediate layers, David's Front, which have also been effective, especially against intermediate missiles. We have Arrow 2, which had already proven its effectiveness, and now it is confirmed. And we have Arrow 3 now, which proves that it is capable of intercepting Iranian ballistic missiles during their ascent phase. And that is the real technological success. Nevertheless, we still have to ask the question whether Iran really used its most effective missiles, because they say they have new generations that they apparently did not use. We still don't have transparency today on what types of missiles were fired. In any case, when we say a more efficient, more effective missile, it's either missiles that have a trajectory that can change during descent, or it's a missile that can drop different warheads, like, for example, French nuclear missiles. There is only one missile that will drop different warheads that will go to different places, sometimes decoys, sometimes real targets. But in any case, Arrow 3 is now capable of intercepting the missile when it is in the ascent phase. So there is no problem. Even a more elaborate missile presumably would be intercepted and would be destroyed by the Israeli air defense. And then we can also consider that the volume was not there. We know that Iran certainly has thousands and thousands of cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and kamikaze drones. They used 300. It was a response to the bombing of their embassy and the fact that Israel had managed to target 2 of their important generals. They created a response that satisfies their marketing needs. They are making a demonstration that they consider to be a show of strength, since they have launched hundreds of missiles. So obviously, in terms of domestic politics, in terms of marketing, certainly there are plenty of people who will say that it's extraordinary, congratulations, but the reality is that there are still very, very few costs to the goal. There are only 2 bases where 9 missiles have been hit. Recent evidence shows these missiles have relatively poor accuracy. There are secondary tracks, empty warehouses, and only a Hercules C-130 that has been simply damaged. So this proves that even when it passes, these are still missiles with low accuracy. So overall, the question that arises now is, what would happen if Iran really sent everything they have, if they really fired? Would all of their missiles be intercepted? Would we also have a 99% interception rate? At row 3, how many ballistic missiles are they capable of intercepting at the same time? Would the United States be positioned? Would the ships also be positioned? Could the Israeli-American fighter jets, which are present in the area, especially on the aircraft carriers, go intercept? Or could they destroy the launchers of these missiles? Because once they've fired missiles, they need to reload the launcher to be able to fire a second one. So could they go intercept and destroy these launchers before they fire new salvos? Exactly. So that's the real question. How far is Israel capable of resisting? Did they resist because they simply fired 300? Or could they really intercept thousands of missiles by adding, for example, all of Iran's proxies that could also hit Israel with low-intensity missiles, as we've seen with Gaza since now, starting from October? So a real question for the future. In any case, it consumes a lot of air defense, which is very bad for Ukraine, since part of the Israeli air defense is also provided by the United States. And so there is competition between the two theaters and part of the air defense that was intended for Ukraine. We know that it had already been redirected towards Israel, and we will obviously see if it continues in this direction. In any case, the region should not flare up anymore, as it would be negative for everyone. But if Israel is content with a proportionate response, or even no response at all, as the United States requests, a proportionate response could simply mean destroying the launchers of these missiles, the launch sites, but not going as far as destroying the production factories, not going as far as destroying the locations where we know they are enriching nuclear material. That might be a response that would be considered proportionate. And in a second time, maybe it could calm down. That's what we hope for everyone. Anyway, I hope you liked it. Don't hesitate to ask questions as usual. I will try to answer them in the most technical way possible. See you soon.